Hi everyone, my name is Mariana and this video is about painting trucks. So about a year ago, I spray painted the tailgate of my truck camouflage, and about 6 months before that, I did the two mirrors and they all held up pretty well. I'm kind of rough on my truck, so there are some scratches here and there, but I think overall they actually turned out pretty well. But now I need to remove it because I'm thinking about trading my truck in for something bigger. Well, not necessarily bigger, but I needed to be able to have a higher towing capacity. So obviously, I don't think I can trade it in like that. I think I would lose a lot of value. So I need to make it look as good as new. So in this video, I'm going to talk to you about a few things that you can do to make that spray paint sort of disappear. So here is what I was thinking. Like I said, I have painted my two mirrors and they're pretty small surfaces, so that's not really that big of a problem. I can probably just paint over it and it won't be a big deal. But the tailgate is actually a huge surface and you want it to look pretty good. I think if you kind of mess it up, it could be very noticeable. So first, I was thinking this is one thing you can do if you have painted any parts of your car or truck, is to actually buy the part. So I was thinking I could go to a junkyard and just simply buy a tailgate. It's easily removable. I could actually do it myself. I don't even need somebody to go with me. And I called a couple of junkyards and they said it would be $69. I mean, that's fantastic. The only problem is I can't find one. This truck is a Chevy Colorado 2010 and they said I would need a year. I think it's 2008 to 2012. So what are the chances that I'm gonna find one in the next couple of weeks? So far it's been a month and I haven't found any, so I kind of deleted that option, but that's a good one to keep in mind. It would actually be the cheapest and the easiest. My other thing was I called an auto body shop just to see how much they would charge me to actually paint it professionally. And they said about $450. And I don't know, I don't have a whole lot of money laying around. So I was thinking, nah, maybe I'll just try it myself. Now, it's a do-it-yourself project. So I went to the auto parts store and they said, yes, I could buy spray paint remover. It's basically acetone. I guess it's pretty strong because they said it would just remove all the paint, including the original one, and that would be back to its original, just the metal, and then I would have to paint it. And I was thinking, well, I don't know if I want to go that far. This is just a couple of layers of spray paint. Before I actually did this, I did read that acetone can remove spray paint, and I watched some videos and it looked all great. So I bought a few bottles of nail polish remover that had acetone in it. I was thinking this would be a gentle option. I'm not gonna overdo it. I can always stop if I think I'm going too far and it starts to look, messy. So it does not work. These are the things you need to keep in mind. First of all, yes, you will be spray painting over the paint, and anytime you use spray paint, you need to use it in a well ventilated area. As you could see, I'm in my messy garage. I will open up the door when I do this. I think this is a pretty good place to do it. I actually have a door just facing me. I have a window. I have my garage door. I think I'm good, and I shouldn't have wind coming in here. If you do it outdoors, just make sure that it's not very windy, because the wind will, of course, affect the direction of your paint. Number two, as far as the spray paint you're using, always use new paint or something that's fairly new, because if you have some paint laying around for like 4, 5, 6 months, that is not going to work too well. The actual spray head might be a little bit blocked, and then instead of the paint coming out in this direction, it might go like that, or it's just going to be messy. You might actually have big blobs just falling off of it. I have experienced all this before, so I bought all new spray paint. So these are the things you will need. You will need some plastic. So these are just huge trash bags I can cut up. You can use newspaper or anything like that, but you need something that will cover up the areas you don't want painted. For my tailgate, I can simply just take it off and put it on a table. But if you're painting anything else, like your mirrors, for example, you need to cover up unwanted areas. And then you will need masking tape. I think this is called masking tape. I love it because you can just basically tear it and you can, just attach all that stuff. You don't need to have scissors on hand or anything like that. However, you do want to have a pair of scissors to cut up the plastic or anything else. Besides this, you will need primer. So I went to the auto parts store. I explained to them what I need, and they said I just need this general purpose primer, and this will be gray, so you just paint over the paint, and that will make sure that your new paint will adhere to it really well. And finally, you will need your spray paint. So you need automotive quality paint, and I went to the auto parts store, explained to them what I need, and they looked it up. And they said for my Chevy, I will need this paint. It actually says duplicates all GM, General Motor colors. So I guess that means Chevy and GMC, whatever is out there. So I said, okay, fine. So I bought about 4 cans. That's all they had. I wish they had more. I would have bought more. I think it's better for you to buy more than less. You can always return any that you have not opened or used yet. So the interesting thing is, this is called Olympic White. I don't know if you could see it right there, but they had no more. I wanted just one more, and they said I could buy this other one. This one also duplicates all GM motors, but it's not the same. This one is called Polar Arctic White. So I don't know if you could see. I don't know, to me they look the same on the camera, but if I look at it, this one is just a little bit more white than this one. So you need to make sure that you have them look it up for you to get the right color. So what I'm going to actually do, I know that I need to make several layers, after I painted it with the primer. So I think I'm going to use this one first. That doesn't quite match, but it's still white. So I will use this as my first layer, and then I will go over the other 3-4 cans, or however, I think I have 3 or 4, with the other 3 or 4 cans on top of that, and then hopefully that will work. Besides this, you also need a protective clear coat, also automotive quality. So this is the one I have. They only have a couple of kinds. I think they're both glossy. I guess it doesn't really matter. So you will spray this over it quite a few times, and I would say to keep doing it about every few weeks, just because this is not the actual professional quality paint. It is still just spray paint, so you want to protect it. There is one more thing I may or may not use, and that is sandpaper. I have some areas in the back that are just a little bit rough. I guess I went over several times, and I don't know, when I touch it, it's not quite smooth. So I'm going to try to sand it off and then paint it. I was thinking maybe you could sand off the whole thing. I guess that's also an option, to sand it all off by hand, just to make sure you don't go too far, and then use the primer and then the paint. But I'm just going to sand off the rough areas. So first I am going to do the mirrors, and if they work out and they look good, then I continue with the tailgate. If they don't, then I have to think about something else. So at this point, I don't know if this is gonna work. I guess we'll find out. So make sure you keep watching, and wish me luck. So your step 1 was to tape up everything you don't want painted. And then step 2 is to sand off anything that feels just a little bit rough. You just basically want to touch the surface, and if it's not smooth, then just sand it off. You don't have to go all the way to the bottom, but this will make it look much nicer. After that, your next step is the primer. Just basically spray on a very nice smooth layer. One is enough, and it actually dries pretty quickly. So what I was doing here, because I have 2 mirrors, I went alternating one side to the next. By the time I finished with the other side, the first side's primer dried pretty well. So then I was able to go to my next step, which is just basically paint it with the actual white paint, and just go very lightly. Just use one layer at a time, then go to the other side, do another layer there, and then just go back and forth. And the whole point is not to go too heavy on it, and just make sure it is completely dry. After that, your final step is to go over 1 or 2 layers with the clear coat and you are done. So the 2 mirrors are done. They look pretty good. I mean, they look good enough for me to want to go ahead and start on my tailgate. So the first step is to take it off, put it on a table, and this is so much better because you're able to paint it horizontally. If it's vertical, you're running the chance for going too heavy with the paint and then it starts dripping, and it's always hard to remind myself not to keep going. So if it's laying down, it's so much better. And I forgot to tell you, obviously you want to wash your car or your truck, but I'm pretty sure you know that, and I have done that already. So I'm going to take it off, and like I said, the first thing I want to do is just kind of smooth over some of those rough areas with my sandpaper. And then step 2, I need to go around the letters where it says Chevrolet. I need to go around it. I'm going to do it with nail polish remover, and I know it's gentle, so it's not going to take off the paint, but hopefully it will take off whatever dirt is around it or possibly the spray paint. And then I'm going to tape up everything I don't want to tape over. And then the first step is my primer. While I was doing this, I discovered that nail polish remover is actually great for removing 1 layer of spray paint, but not more. So I had 1 layer of white paint here, and it came off so beautifully. It even peeled off in some areas, and it just made it so much easier because it was kind of built up with dirt around it, and I know it would have looked really bad, and I didn't want to paint over the silver letters on the sides, so that was a little bit kind of a tricky area. But I did notice that it actually does not take off more than 1 layer, at least not while I was trying, and I really tried it. So I don't think nail polish remover would work for the entire area. As you see, I'm doing it right there with the green leaves, and it was just not budging. So for 1 layer, it's perfect. I like the way it turned out, and then I just needed to sand off this area right here where 1 layer ended, and I kind of made a couple of mistakes already, so just keep watching. At the end I will actually give you my final thoughts, so you know where I went wrong with some things and what are things that you could try to avoid. Your next step again is taping up everything you don't want painted over. Of course, sanding and taping, these 2 steps are interchangeable. It doesn't matter which one you do first. Here I was just trying to make sure I actually have caught everything that was a little bit too bumpy or rough. And like I said, just keep watching until the end because I have a few things to say about this. And here I am using my primer, just 1 layer, one nice little layer, make sure I covered everything. And then your next step is to use the white paint. So like I mentioned, I didn't necessarily have enough paint. So my first step is to use the white paint that's not quite the exact match to my truck, but I figured that the first layer, it's not really gonna matter that much, but at least it's white and it will cover everything. And then the second layer will be with the actual match, and then just keep going and going in a nice light-handed sideway pattern, and just keep letting it dry and keep going. And then your final step is your clear coat. So this is basically it, and then you just take off your paint and hopefully everything looks great. So overall, I think it turned out pretty well, not perfect. So if I had to grade it, I'm a teacher, I'm a high school teacher. So if I had to grade it, I would give it a B+. Now, I have learned a few things along the way, so I'm going to pass those on to you. If you are to ever do this, you could do it the way I did it, but I would change a couple of things. For one, sand down anything that stands out. I mean, that's the biggest flaw that I see is that I thought I sanded everything down. I touched it, I felt it, I looked at it, and it looked like it was fine. And once I started painting it with the primer and the white, there was some bumpy areas, just like this really weird pattern. I don't know, this weird texture. So that should have been sanded down. So don't skimp on the time with that. Take an hour or two if you have to. Keep sanding. I actually had a lot of layers of paint. If you spray paint in a camouflage pattern, then you will have several layers of paint, and you might just need to sand down a couple of layers. I think that's important. I don't think you could remove all the spray paint by sanding it. I mean, you could try it, but it would take you forever. For a surface like this, like a big, large tailgate, I think it would take too long, and you would still probably have to paint over it. I don't know. It might be worth it. So maybe give that a try if it's a smaller surface. But I know that on the mirrors are plastic, and I think that makes a big difference. That would be almost impossible to sand that down. They just did not budge. And actually, I had those done a year and a half ago, and the mirrors are the first two things that are facing traffic. You know, they go like this, so you have all these bugs and all this debris and everything, and they actually held up so well. So I think it had to do with the plastic. So I don't think sanding them would do well. Now, nail polish remover. As you saw, I started removing just some of the dirt and some of the whatever that was around the lettering. I figured it might be easier, and it actually took off the paint. Now in that area, I only had one layer of paint, which was white, and you could see it didn't even match, because back then I just got a can of universal white paint and I thought that would be it, but it didn't really matter because I wasn't trying to match anything. I just wanted white. So if you have one layer, you could actually use nail polish remover. And I guess it doesn't have a really big acetone content, because I was not in danger whatsoever of damaging the actual car paint. So you could use that. Could you use nail polish remover to remove all the paint? Again, that would be a lot of work. It's possible. I would rather use that than the actual acetone that you could buy at the store, because like they said, it is for stripping down the paint, but the nail polish remover obviously is not going to be that harsh. I mean, you use it on your nails. So that could be a safe alternative, but it would take you a long time. You would need some buddies to come over, you know, get them some beer and some snacks, and then just start doing that. So that would be another option. But overall, you would still need the primer, and then you would need to make several coats. I ended up using, I think, 3 cans between the 2 mirrors and the tailgate. Me using a different color for the bottom layer, I don't think it made any difference. So if you can't quite buy the exact paint that you need, if it's a slightly different name, you could use that for your bottom layer and just paint. Another suggestion I would make, if you really want to do this right and you want it to last for a long time, I would take my time. I would paint the primer that actually dries pretty well. I would use the first layer of paint, and I would wait even a day, or at least, I don't know, 8 hours or something, for it to really harden. And then I would do the second layer, and then wait, and then the third layer, and then wait, and keep going like that. So you could take 5-6 days to do this, and then of course several layers of the clear coat, and I would wait between those. My truck, I just wanted to have the white on it again, and I just wanted it to look like a normal truck, nothing suspicious, and I just want to trade it in. I don't think they're going to look at it too closely, but honestly, if I wanted it to last longer, I would have waited in between. But I think it got the job done. Overall, I think I paid about $50. Each of those cans of paint is $10-11, and overall I got like 4 or 5 total with the clear coat and everything. It was still a pretty good price. Preferably, I would still rather just buy the actual part, but that's not always possible. I could have waited a few months, but I'm kind of in a rush. I want to get this done. So this is it. Hopefully you learned something. If you have any suggestions, let me know. Leave me a comment. I want to thank you so much for watching. I do apologize for my messy garage. It's very messy. It's my camping stuff and everything, and I also want to apologize if there were any noises in this video. I'm at home and this is Sunday and my neighbors are out. They were already bumping their music for a party and kids are yelling and my dogs are crying and people are cutting their grass. So if it was distracting, I apologize. Once again, thank you so much for watching. The amount of acetone in the nail polish remover is probably not that high, but I did discover that it is a great tool to remove any kind of things from your truck that soap and water doesn't remove. So if you have, for example, scratches, when scratches occur, two things happen. One, that foreign object goes into the paint and leaves a dent in it. It basically takes the paint off, right? There's really nothing you can do about that. But the second is during that friction that we don't actually see, but a scratch has friction, the paint or whatever color, whatever it is on that object, it comes off and gets attached to your scratch. And that is why it's so noticeable. So when you have a little fender bender, your car might actually be okay, but you see red paint on it because it was a red car, and you can just use nail polish remover and it will come off and your original paint will not. So I was actually kind of able to go around my truck and just remove a lot of things that were still there. So hopefully the value will go up a little bit more.